everyone. Welcome to Litigation Help. My name is Heather, and joining me here today is Dan Rosman. So Dan, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about some of the common mistakes that you see self-represented litigants make.
Okay, so I can start off with one I see often.
Okay.
And that is not understanding the rules as much as they should. So, and I'll give you an example. Motion records are an important document that you need to present most times when you bring a motion.
Right.
A motion record consists of a notice of motion, it consists of evidence, it consists of other things. And where you find all that information of what you're supposed to do, where you find those rules, is in the rules of civil procedure. I constantly see self-reps not understanding those rules, not understanding what they're obliged to put into the motion record, how the motion record is supposed to be formatted and page numbered and things like that. Now, that's one example. Other examples of not following the proper rules include, and I'm going to go back to documents again, the back page, what color it's supposed to be. If you're a plaintiff, if you're a moving party, it's a different color than if you're a responding party. And that helps the court know whose documents are whose. Those rules are there for a reason, obviously. And a common mistake I see is self-reps just, and maybe rightfully so, the court system is very overwhelming.
Right.
But just not having a good grasp of those basic rules that us lawyers are just know so well.
Right. But it's really surprising because as a litigant, I remember, of course, this is my own experience. I was so obsessed and caught up by the so-called merits of the claim.
Right.
Like, so if you're in a breach of contract lawsuit, you're just focused on the breach of contract. You're not focusing on all these format stuff.
Right.
Really? So the format is a big deal?
Yeah, formats and all that stuff are a very big deal. And I think you're right. In your experience, you wanted the judge to be very concerned about the merits of the case.
Yes.
And you don't want the judge to be distracted and annoyed because he doesn't know if this motion record is yours or the other party's, or if he can't find the page he needs to find or she needs to find because the page numbering is not there or it's not tabbed correctly. So, lawyers and judges are very used to operating under those rules and dealing with the documents produced the way the rules tell those documents to be produced, things like that. And self-reps come into that system not understanding it, and it becomes a distraction for a judge. Sometimes a judge will reject your documents altogether if they're not done properly. But if they're accepted, it just works against you. It doesn't help when you have documents that aren't done correctly because it's going to distract a judge, it's going to annoy a judge, and it's just going to make it a little harder for you to be successful in court.
Right. Now, what about... I know at Superior Court, everything seems very difficult. And I remember from my experience, those forms that... Right. So I was downloading them, actually, and I was like, general heading, what does that mean? Right. So... Now, but there must be somewhere where they describe this, isn't there?
And they're described in the rules of civil procedure.
Oh, okay.
So so it's in there, and if there's websites that are available. The Ontario government makes a website available that has a list of all the forms that are described, most of the forms that are described in the rules of civil procedure. Right. And as an example, if you want to file a statement of defense, you can go on that website. You can download a template statement of defense, either a PDF or a Word document. But that is not going to be easy to understand how to use. It's not an easy form. It's not just like type here, type there.
It's not fill in the blanks.
No, it's you got to construct it yourself, knowing how to construct it properly within that template. So it's not easy. The best way I would recommend to understand how to do your form is to first download that form from the website, but then look at other documents that have been created by a lawyer that you can see, okay, this is how I need to make mine look. This is how that lawyer used that form to create their document, because it's not easy.
So it's kind of like you need to follow an example of some sort.
I think that's helpful. I think it's helpful to follow an example. You can go and there's resources out there for a cost that'll help you with these forms. But as a self-rep, cost is usually a bit of a problem, and you're just going to have to figure it out yourself how to do those forms properly.
Okay. So, was there anything else that you wanted to add in addition to rules that self-reps don't know about?
Well, sometimes I've seen self-reps not understand some of the litigation rules and litigation, let's say, etiquette, right? So oftentimes I've seen a self-rep will write a letter to the judge without telling the other lawyer they're doing so, or in an inappropriate time, or communicate with, send private information to even to the lawyer on the other side that they probably shouldn't have done. I think if you're in a litigation as a self-rep, you should do your best to understand what information you should be sharing with the other lawyers, what information you don't have to share with other lawyers, when you can talk to a judge, if you talk to a judge, putting your other party on notice or copying that other party.
Oh, wow.
All those little things, because if you do that stuff, and that let's say you speak to a judge without telling the other lawyer, that judge is going to get upset.
Right.
But if that other lawyer then finds out later, he's going to bring it up to the judge as a problem and a reason why maybe your evidence should be excluded, or a reason why your motion should not be heard, or something like that. So there's a lot of those little intricacies and rules that I see self-reps breach all the time. Some are more serious than others, but if possible, it's a good idea before you take a step, like communicating with the judge, or even sending material to the other side, to get maybe speak to someone that has some experience, and just to tell you if it's good or bad to do that.
I didn't even know you're even allowed to talk to judges.
Yeah, most of the time you aren't.
Okay.
Right. So there are times where, and I'll give you an example. So if there's a case, let's say it goes to trial or it goes to a motion, and the judge says, okay, I'm going to reserve my decision. Right. So that means that you're going to wait for him or her to decide, and then they'll release their decision. Let's say you on the other side just figure it out. You just settle it. Right. You can then contact the judge, as long as both lawyers understand and are in agreement, and say, look, we figured it out. You don't have to come out with your decision. Things like that. And there's other times where you can do it.
So that's appropriate.
But that would be appropriate. And you don't even talk to the judge. You talk to the judge's assistant and things like that. But I've seen self-reps just, they just do whatever.
So, for example, if there was a trial and you go home and you're like, oh, I didn't like what I said during, like, today at trial, the testimony, I want to correct what I say. You cannot just call the judge and say, hey. No, you can't do that. No. That's not right. So that's great. So, Dan, that's really interesting. Things that even I don't know. So thanks very much for being here. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.